Hi there. Today we're going to be doing lesson 11 in unit 4. And this lesson we're going to be learning how to calculate things like the markup that businesses do to make profit, markdown, which is discounts that businesses offer, commission, so that's like a percentage of a particular item's cost that a salesperson gets just for selling that item. And we'll also be reviewing leaving tips, interest, and sales tax. So for this warm-up, you're asked to figure out which one of these expressions represents a 15% tip on a $20 meal, and which one represents the total bill, and which ones represent neither. For this particular problem, I would suggest using a bar model to kind of get your thinking organized. So the way we look at tips is like this. Your meal, when you go to a restaurant, will cost a particular price, and without taxes, without tips, we call that amount the subtotal. Now, we add on tips for meals based on how well a server, kind of did what needed to be done for your meal. Did they bring the meal on time? Did they take your order fairly quickly? Did they refill your drinks? Things like that. So the information that they're giving us is that the tip was 15%. And in this case, the 100% is always the original, which is the subtotal. So this is 100% of the meal cost. You add the 15%, right? And then you're going to get a total of both the subtotal and the tip. So we also know that this subtotal for this particular meal is $20. So we can actually add that on. And now let's start looking at what they're giving us. 15 times 20. Well, I'm looking at this and I know that if I wanted to find the amount of the tip, I would do 15% of $20, the subtotal. Now, I know that if I'm going to put that in my calculator, 15% of 20 is the same thing as putting in the decimal version here. So that would be 0.15 of means multiply 20, the dollars. So when I look at this, this is not the tip, because to make this the tip, this actually needs to be 0.15 or 0.15. So the answer to that one is simply neither. Okay, so now let's take a look at number 2. 20 plus 0.15 times 20. Okay, so right away I'm noticing something. This is exactly what I just calculated down here, right? It's 0.15 times 20. And that's going to give me the amount of the tip, because we are giving 15% of the $20 meal. So that's just this part. Here they're saying 20 plus that. Well, when I look at my bar model, if I know that this tip amount is this down here, and I know that the meal subtotal was $20, then my total cost is going to be the $20 plus whatever the tip was. And in this case, it was 0.15 times 20. So this actually represents my whole total meal. So I'm going to hit total. All right, let's take a look at this. 1.15 times 20. All right. Well, we know where the 20 is coming from, right? That's the total, the subtotal. Now, 1.15, if I'm going about trying to solve this, I'm trying to think in my head, how do they get that, right? How would we get this 1.15? And when I'm looking here, I'm noticing, okay, the total in this case is 115%, right? 100% plus 15% is 115%. So I also know if I were to convert that percentage to a decimal, that equals 1 and 15 hundredths. Because remember, to convert a percent to a decimal, you just divide that number by 100. Okay, and I also know that this total amount is going to equal 115% of the subtotal, which is 20. So 115% of 20 actually is also represented by this. 1.15 for the 115%. Of is with the multiplication symbol, and then the 20 is just the 20. So I know this is also equal to the total of the subtotal and the tip together, the total. Okay. And finally, we're looking at this one. So this one, I noticed that this says 15 hundredths, and this is a fraction version. So I'm really going to just put this into a decimal version because all the stuff I've been doing is decimals. And I know that 15 hundredths is simply 15 ending in the hundredths place as a decimal. So 15 hundredths is 15 hundredths right here. So that's 15 hundredths times 20. And I know that that is the tip, right? It's 15% of the original subtotal of $20. So again, this is going to be my tip. All right. So let's see what's next. I actually did something different. This is a summary of the lesson. Basically, it's telling you kind of how these things work. We've already done sales tax. We've already done gratuity or tip. We've already looked at interest. Okay? These show us who gets the sales tax, the government. How does it work? Well, the government adds a percentage on to the price of an item, right? Gratuity or a tip, who gets that? The server. How does that work? Well, a tip is added on to the cost of a meal. Interest. Well, who gets interest? The lender, meaning a person borrowing, who's giving you money or letting you borrow money. So in most cases, it's a bank or a credit card company, maybe a friend, and they charge you interest. Okay. The other side to that is you as an account holder. So like if you had a savings account in a particular bank, you can actually also earn interest for putting your money with that bank. So how does that work? Well, interest is added to the balance of a loan, of a credit card, or a bank account, just depending on what kind of thing you're earning interest on. So sometimes it's good for you, sometimes it's not so good. And I do want to show you, because we're going to look at these things next, but these are also in your Google Classroom. If you go under your Anchor Charts and Video section, I have added definitions for all of these and how to find them, okay? So Anchor Charts and Videos, you're going to see there's interest, there's tax and tip. The first things we're going to look at next is markup and markdown. Okay, and I'm going to show you these. These can help you also for when it's time to do the next card sort. So a markup is simply the amount of money that a business or a seller adds to the amount that they pay for an item. And that's just so they make a profit. So for instance, in this case, the example I give is that McDonald's pays $1 for all the ingredients that they have in a Big Mac. All right. So that right here is how much they paid to make that Big Mac for you. All right. Now, that's the price the seller paid, right? That's the wholesale. That's another way of saying that. The wholesale value of a Big Mac is $1. But they don't charge you $1 for that Big Mac because they want to make money, right? So the markup is actually usually a percentage of an item In this case, it's the Big Mac, right? So they mark up the cost by 350%. In this case, I'm showing you how to find, well, what was that markup, right? So the wholesale is the amount that they paid for all the ingredients of the Big Mac. The markup is how much they're adding on to that cost to make the total customer price that you would pay. In this case, a person would pay $4.50 because it's $1 for the wholesale. That's what they paid. McDonald's pays for all the ingredients. They mark it up by $3.50. So that means you as a customer are paying $4.50 for a Big Mac. The other item or the other type of thing that we're going to be looking at today is a markdown. Now, a markdown is kind of the opposite of a markup, right? Mark up, mark down. So a markdown is when a business or a seller discounts a price of an item. There's different reasons why they might discount it. This is basically having a sale or having a coupon, right? For instance, if you are looking at, like right now, we're going into, it's springtime. People are going to start maybe wanting swimsuits for the summer, right? They're not going to mark down swimsuits now because people like them and they want to buy them. But at the end of the summer, when nobody's going to need swimsuits, they're going to want to get rid of those. So they're going to mark those prices down. They're going to give you coupons or discounts towards swimsuits at the end of the season. So here's an example of how it works. In this case, we're looking at how much is a 30% markdown on a $45 shirt. If I were going to figure that out, well, let's take a look. The original price would be like the original price tag amount, right? In this case, they're giving me 30% off. Well, that's the markdown, right? 30% is the markdown. We want to know what the new price is. Well, actually, in this case, they just want to know what the markdown is, right? So if we want to figure out how much money are they taking off the cost of that shirt, well, we would do 30% of the original amount of 45. And so 30% of 45, you can see how we calculated that, right? We turn the percent to a decimal and multiply it by the original amount. Well, that's $13.50. So that means this markdown is $13.50. Now, if we wanted to find the new price, we'd have to take the $45 and subtract $13.50 off. The last thing that we're going to look at here before we start the next activity is commission. Commission's a trickier one because a lot of times you guys don't have experience with commission in your life. Like tax, you've probably seen tax before. Tipping, you probably know what that means and what that is. But commission is something that we don't see a lot of. So commission is a percentage of the cost of an item that a salesperson gets for selling that item. So for instance, not everybody who sells things gets commission, but in this example, I have Emma. So I'm thinking of, those little kiosks in the middle of the mall that just sell different items. Let's say Emma is working there and she's selling jewelry at one of those kiosks. And she gets paid based on how much she sells. So she gets a 5% commission for selling the jewelry. If she sold $325 of jewelry, how much commission will she get? So for this one, it's a little different, right? So she's going to get a portion of that amount she sold. So 5% of the $325 means she's getting $16.25 for selling that jewelry. Okay? So this is going to be here for you to come back to if you're unsure of something while you're solving through some of these slides. So let's go ahead. This is also, again, just a little summary. So we're going to look at the first thing. And your job here is you're going to look at the headers here. There's 6 of them. There's those things that we just talked about. Sales tax, commission, markup, interest. Oh, not that. Okay, I saw one under there. Ah, there we go. Markdown. And there should be one more hiding. Well, gratuity. Here it is. All right, and gratuity or tip. So our job is simply to look at the different situations and decide where do they match up? Which one of these top, header cards do they go with? So go ahead, take a minute and try to match them up. So you can go ahead and pause. All right, so we're going to go ahead and look at these one by one and match them up. Which situation do they match with? The first one is Karan, and he ate breakfast at a cafe. The total check was $5, but here's what he left. Okay, so students typically pick one of two things for this. I see a lot of people say that this is sales tax because he's leaving more money than the check was for. However, there's an important part to this card that tells us that it's not sales tax. Here it's telling me that the total check was $5. So what that means is the total check would include not just how much the breakfast was, but also the sales tax. So that's included in the $5. He left an extra 75 cents as a tip for the server. And so my main kind of clue that was gratuity is that it said, like I said, the total amount and that he's eating breakfast at a cafe. All right, let's look at this one. So for this one, Priya used this coupon to buy a game that normally costs $24.50. So it's a 10% off coupon. Why did she pay $22.05? Well, she paid less than the original amount because she used a coupon, which is a markdown, right? Coupon makes the price go down. So that's a markdown. Okay, let's take a look at this one. This is also one that students typically have some trouble with. Claire's aunt used a credit card to pay $40 for an outfit. 6 weeks later, the credit card company added 60 cents to her bill. Why does she owe $40.60 for the outfit now? Okay, again, my students typically go between two different headers. Some of them say sales tax, right? Because it starts with $40 and ends up being more. However, this is actually a case of interest. And the reason for that is that it's telling me that, or I know a credit card, that's a form of payment. So when I go into a store and I use a credit card to buy something, I'm using that credit card to pay for not just the items, but also the sales tax to begin with, right? So the $40 was already including that sales tax. Now, the way credit cards work is they're basically little loans, okay? You might go and get a credit card and you're approved for a $500 limit. So what that means is they're going to loan you up to $500. And what happens is every month they bill you. And you can either pay all the amount that you owe, right? So she could have paid the $40 and just paid the $40 if she did it within the month, okay? After the month is up, anything you didn't pay for, they charge you interest on it, okay? So in this case, she ended up paying 60 cents more on her outfit because she didn't pay off her credit card right away. All right. Okay, let's look at this one. Tyler bought a shirt from the 25% off rack. It normally costs $16. Here's what he paid. So he paid $12. Why did he pay $12? Well, 25% off the price, it's going down. Well, that's a markdown. So we're going to add that to this one, right? Because that 25% off rack is a markdown, a discount. Okay. Let's let's take a look at this one. Diego's uncle sells computers. In addition to his wages, he gets paid 20% of the amount he sells. Okay, so I'm looking at this. This is his paycheck stub. And notice here, so he gets a wage, and a wage in this case, I can tell it's hourly, okay? So this means 40 hours he worked for that week or pay period. Yeah, it was 2 weeks. And he gets $14.75. That's pretty good. So that means that his wage was $590 for that pay period. However, he also gets 20% of the amount of computers he sells. So in this case, he also gets a sales income. So he sold $3,000 worth of computers. He made 0.2, that's 20%, right? 0.2 is 20%. So therefore, the amount of money that he made off of selling the computers was $600. So he actually got paid $1,190 for those 2 weeks. And this is commission, right? Because this is based on, he's getting money based on what he sold. So that tells me it's commission. Sometimes people like to put that into markup, but it's not. All right, let's look at Lynn. Lynn bought a pretzel from the snack cart. So here's the price list. They're all $4.50. However, she had to pay $4.83. Now, a lot of people like to tell me that this is a tip. However, it's not. The reason I know that is because, first of all, typically, if you just go up to a counter to buy a pretzel, you wouldn't necessarily leave a tip. However, you do have to pay sales tax. So this is an example of sales tax. It's 33 cents, right? That had to be paid on the amount. So sales tax is that amount getting added. All right. And finally, oh, nope, we have 2 more. So a car dealership paid $9,000 for a car. Here's the sticker price for a customer to buy the car. All right, so let's see. The wholesale price was $9,000. The suggested retail price, or what the consumer pays or customer, is $10,395. Why are they charging that? Why are they charging more than they bought it for? Well, the car dealership's got to make money. So this is called a markup. It's when they're selling something for more than they paid for it so that they make a profit. And now we're left with Andre. Andre's saving money for college. He had $1,500 in his account. At the end of the year, the bank adds 3% of the balance to his account. So he started with $1,500, and then it says dividend earned 3%. And they added $45 on. So he made $45 extra. This is an example of good interest for you, right? So they're adding this 3% interest for Andre putting his money in their bank. So that's going to go here. Whoops. Not where I put it. It's going to go into interest. Okay. So let's double check. Our next slide tells us, all right, good. We got them all right.